Hello and happy Thursday. It's Darcy Loma and welcome back to Thoughtfully Fit Thursdays. I'm really honored and excited to have a special guest with us today, Patricia Sutton, who Patricia went through, I met her, well, we'll talk about that, but many years ago, and she went through the small group coaching. Every year I host a women's small group coaching. And it's an in-person opportunity in Madison for women to get together and to support each other. And Patricia was in that cohort a couple of years ago, and she, I remember, just came alive. You just came alive.
I kind of did.
Yeah. And so I oftentimes hear from people about what is coaching and what is small group coaching and what do you do and how does this work? And so I thought today we would have a conversation with Patty so that you can learn a little bit about her journey, the obstacles that she had to overcome, the joys, the challenges, the successes, how she redefined herself. And if you are in a place in your life where you're trying to figure out what's next, what you can do. Mm-hmm. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm really happy to be here.
It's great to have you here. So I want to just have you start by talking a little bit about our journey, how we first met, and what the context was for you joining the small group coaching at that time.
Okay, well, the first time I met you was at the Dream Bank. It was in January of 2014, and it was all about setting goals with intentions. And I was a little desperate at that moment because I had stepped away from teaching, had taken an early retirement, and I was trying to figure out what in the world I was going to do next. So I sat in your presentation at Dream Bank and I kept nodding. I'm like, yes, this sounds like what I'm talking about. I remember having tears in my eyes. And then when I saw that you were going to be offering a small group, the Thrive Circle, in September, I thought I needed to be there. I needed to be in a community with other women who were also questioning things that were going on in their own lives. And so I was like, I'm going to invest in myself and join the small group.
Well, it sounds like that was a theme. You hitting the pause button, going to the Dream Bank, listening to a workshop, choosing to build in a support network by attending the small group coaching. Like it sounds like has that always been your default, is to find a support network to support you?
Yeah, I think I have done that in my life, and I had to look back on it to kind of think about it. But I would get sort of stuck, and then I'd figure out what is it that I want to try to do next. And usually when we talked about those voices of saboteurs that try to talk us down from who do you think you are, and I kind of, as I've grown up, have learned, if I ask the question, what do I have to lose? Like, what's the worst that will happen? If I can live with that, then take the step, try it, and see what happens. And that's kind of how I've gotten to where I am.
That's so great. And one of the things that we talk a lot about on Thoughtfully Fit Thursdays is this notion of building your core. And so you pause, you think, and then you act. And in the think, it's a question. And as you were just sharing, Patty, you instinctively asked yourself a question. You paused to ask yourself, what do I have to lose?
Right.
And then you acted because I'm guessing you realized, not much.
Right.
Maybe you have more to lose by not.
For sure. Right.
Yeah. So you retired.
Right.
You went to this workshop and on goals and realized that there's something inside of you stirring. You signed up for small group coaching.
Right.
Where'd it go from there?
Well, while I was there and we were doing all of our work and trying to figure out, what is it that you're looking for? Where do you want to head? I knew it had to do with writing. I had been doing a lot of memoir writing, and I thought that might be it. But I happened to be at my daughter's house, Lindsay's, on a Saturday morning, a rainy Saturday morning, and we were talking about it, and I got really sad, and she said, Mom, what's wrong? And I said, I want to write, but I still think I want to write a children's book. And she said, okay, it's okay. So what do you need to do? And I said, I probably need to know how to write a children's book. And so from there, I put in an application for Hamlin University. They have an MFA program in writing for kids and young adults. Just only, that's the genre, kids and young adults. So I went ahead and I applied, and I came back to our small group, and I said, I applied for an MFA program, and I got accepted.
And the room exploded. Yeah. I mean, there's this room full of women that just, it was so exciting. Well, I remember it well.
I have to say, it was in that community of being with other women who were trying to figure it out, and being able to say aloud what it was that was inside of us, that we wanted. That's like where the magic happened. I mean, it was such a sacred space to be able to talk about these things that were inside of us that we really wanted to figure out. Yeah. So, and I was the oldest in the group, looking at the camera, and most of them could be my daughter. But I think there's something about being in those kinds of groups where there's a large number of ages, different experiences, that we all bring something different to the table, and that's what's so powerful about that small group work, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, and if I can share, we were talking a little bit right before going on, and there was one activity that we did. Is it okay if I share the circle? Sure. So we had everybody write down anything you're concerned about. When you think about the dream, the goal, the vision that you have, write down anything on a separate Post-it that you're concerned about. And then you had to categorize those Post-its to what are, and I'm sort of shortening it, but what are the things that you are in control of, and what are the things that you have no control of? So the weather, you have no control of, or national politics, or what have you. And I'm going to turn it over to you, the realization, the aha moment you had.
Well, because on the floor then you had, what were they? Were they circles?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Right. And they had all these different areas that your little sticky notes could go in. And I looked at my sticky notes. It's my turn. I had this pile of like a dozen of them. And I took my pile and I threw it down into the U circle. And I just said, I'm out. Everything that's standing in my way is right here. It was right there. And it was a real moment for me to just say, you need to get out of your way and go and do this.
Wow.
Yeah, it really was. It was
it's
great.
Powerful moment. To hear you say that I'm the only thing getting in my way.
Yeah. It's true.
So you have this this awareness that you've got a dream, and now the obstacles are all within you. Mm-hmm. What do you do to overcome those obstacles? To pipe down that inner gremlin that's saying you can't do this, you're too old, you don't have a master's, you've never written a children's book, all of those things.
Yeah. I think it really is about just taking little steps and just trying along the way. I went big and went MFA, but you know what? Up until then, it was all these little things that I had done along the way. Yeah. First I got into online classes because then I could hide behind the computer. She's not really a writer, but I could learn about my craft doing that. And then I signed up for UW has right by the lake a couple of summers. I went to those sessions. I went away to camp in Pennsylvania and sat with a bunch of other nonfiction writers. And then I ended up moving on to an MFA. But along the way, it's each of those little steps that you take to educate yourself. We were talking about this too before. For me, it has always been education that has gotten me to the next step. And maybe it's a class, or maybe it's an organization, maybe it's therapy, maybe it's sitting in a small group coaching session. It's all education. It's all sometimes education about ourselves, sometimes it's about our craft or whatever it is that we're doing, but it is the key. Well, I'm a former teacher, so education would have to be a key.
Absolutely.
But it really is what lets us get to those next steps, I think.
Yeah, and what I want to underscore that's great about what we were saying, Patricia, is the fact, so Thoughtfully Fit is all about coaching yourself, trying to teach you to coach yourself. And there's two important components in coaching. You create awareness and then you create actions. So you have this new awareness. I want to write a book. I'm the one getting my own way. And then you had these series of actions that you built in support systems and accountability. The online writing course, the in-person writing course, the small group coaching. But they were each baby steps that kept you moving forward. And that's what's so critical when you're trying to identify what goal you want to achieve, is what's the next step? What is the next step? Now that next step might be something big and bold, like I'm going to apply for MFA in Hamlin, or it may be I'm going to talk to my husband and say, I want to do this. Will you support me?
Yeah, and that was true. I had to talk to Dan and say, we're not going to be remodeling the kitchen, but I'm going to go back to school.
Yes.
So I have really bad Formica countertops, but I have an MFA.
And not only do you have an MFA, we are sitting here, you have something to show for it.
Oh, I do.
Can you tell us about your book?
Yes, I actually wrote a book. And it's going to be published this summer in July with Chicago Review Press. They're a mid-size independent publisher in Chicago. And it will release in July 1st. I happen to have an advance copy here. It looks like this. It's called Capsized. It's the forgotten story of the SS Eastland disaster. And I know when I say that, people say, they usually do this. Huh? And I say, oh, you never heard of it? I have the book that is going to teach you all about it. It's actually written for kids 10 and up. And I would tell you some adults who've read it and have said, hey, this is a really good story, Mom. It's what my kids have read.
Yes.
So, yeah. So I am... I have a book tour this summer, and I'm going to be here in Madison at Mystery to Me on July 24th, which is a special day because it's actually the anniversary of the Eastland disaster. Because if I said to you, well, you know about Titanic, right?
Yes.
What if I told you that more passengers died on the Eastland than on Titanic?
That's incredible.
And you would say, why don't we know
about it?
This? And that's why I wrote the book, because I'm still a teacher inside.
Yes.
And it's like, why don't we know this story? It was mostly women and children who died, a lot of immigrant factory workers and their families. It's an incredible story, and yet it's lost from our collective memory. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to tell this story. I love writing nonfiction and narrative nonfiction when there are stories of real people who survive.
Yeah, and what's incredible, and I don't know, you're going to have to correct the timeline, but we met in 2014.
Right.
You went to the Dream Bank.
2015.
2015. Small group coaching for women was
That fall.
And here we are, it's 2018. So you went from having, I'm retired, what am I going to do, to having a vision, to having a dream, to doing it and being published and going on a book tour.
I know. My friend said to me today, wait, you're going on a book tour and you're doing Facebook Live? Who are you? And I said, I know, I wake up every day and I say the same thing. I don't know whose life this is, but I'm really enjoying it right now.
Oh, okay. So for those who are watching, who are sitting there saying, okay, she's got superpowers because I couldn't do that. What advice would you have for somebody who's sitting there thinking, I've got a dream. I have something that I want to do, and I would be thrilled if in 3 years I had accomplished it. Where do they start? What thoughts do you have?
Yeah, I think it is about taking those little steps, like finding opportunities to learn more about what it is that you're trying to get to, and just being able to reach out. I did one thing. I wrote to an author that I admired so greatly, and I thought, oh, he's an award-winning author. He's never going to email back to me. He wrote back to me, Jim Murphy, who you may not know, but he's such a wonderful nonfiction writer for kids, award-winning nonfiction writer for kids. He wrote back to me and told me, gave me some good advice and encouragement. And meanwhile, Jim Murphy then, we sent the book to Jim Murphy, and he actually wrote a blurb on the back of my book.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Well, every step of the way.
Steps.
And Patricia, every step of the way, you have, it sounds like, identified what's the next thing to do, and if there's an obstacle, how do I overcome it, and how do I just do it? Because I'm going to guess that was a little intimidating, maybe not, a little intimidating to reach out to an award-winning author,
Right.
and yet you did it.
Yeah, I think it was what's the worst that can happen? He's not going to write back. So, you never know until you try. And I think the other thing too is to take the time to kind of reflect on those things, those accomplishments, those little ones that you have, and kind of pat yourself on the back to just keep moving forward, because you have to take care of yourself in the process of all of this, I think, just because it's hard. You're really vulnerable when you put yourself out there like that.
So yeah, that pause. What are some things you do to create a pause and space to reflect?
Usually it's a glass of wine is involved.
Yes.
But I also I don't know. We look out on the Yahara River. I just kind of sit on that little daybed and just kind of sit back and reflect on it, and think about how good things are.
Yes.
Yeah. It was the same couch though that I was kind of lying on, miserable and stuck. Like when you say you have to pause, I think there are times in our lives when we have to take longer pauses too, where we have to try and figure out what those pieces are that go together, and we have to just kind of let ourselves be in those kind of funky places. But then you want to pick it up a little. You don't want to. You gotta keep moving, and then it's those brief pauses where you can kind of reevaluate and then see where you're going to go next.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and a couple of the questions that I heard you share. Well, one that is a theme that keeps coming up in our conversation is what's the worst can happen.
Right.
I mean, it sounds like that multiple times in your... Lindsay said, well, Mom, what's the worst can happen?
Right.
And then so what's next? It sounds like that was a powerful question. Okay, so this is my dream. What's the worst that can happen? I could get rejected. What's next? I don't know if I'll get it rejected if I don't put it out there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I was telling you I had learned long ago in teaching about this comfort zone, that we kind of live in this box where our comfort zone is, and that if we don't step out of the comfort zone, we can't feel exhilaration in our lives. And that's what I'm feeling right now. I mean, it's easier to stay in where it's comfortable, but if you can step out and try, there are things out there, not just like what the voices in our heads are telling us, but the good stuff is out there too.
So you got this, we all have this comfort zone, and it sounds like when you were able to step out of it, there's moments where I'm filling in the blank here, so correct me if I'm wrong. There's moments where stepping out of it creates fear,
right? And
there's moments where that fear turns into exhilaration.
Yeah, they both are true.
Yes,
they both are true.
You are alive when you're talking about this. It feels like there's whatever that was when you said laying on my couch in the same Yahara River, reflecting on how, you didn't use the word miserable I am, but I'm guessing a lot of people can relate. Like, yeah, that's all great, but she doesn't know the state I'm in, or I don't have those resources, or I don't have. You were able to stay with the discomfort and create enough awareness for what do I want to do next to get yourself off of the couch and activated.
Yeah, I think it's because I loved teaching, and when I needed to step away from it, I was like, I probably will never feel this kind of bliss in my life again. Well, there would always be bliss when it came to grandchildren and family and all that sort of thing, but I didn't know what my life's work would be at this next stage. And I was just like, you can't just stay here. You can't stay stuck. You have to at least try to figure out what that next thing is. And and then once you're open to it, that's kind of when pieces start to fall into place, or you have your eyes open and so you seek them out.
Well, that's an interesting point, because you say you can't just stay stuck. You could. There's people who don't make the choice to get off the couch, and yet you were able to step into, this isn't the place I want to be. I don't want to stay stuck. So what's the next joy? What's the next bliss?
For me now?
Well, that's where you
that
were
was
at
where
then.
I-
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well,
oh
and-
no,
and-
I'm not ready to leave this.
No,
place.
that was what you were
Yes,
thinking at that
it
point,
was.
and here you are,
Yeah.
fully in it,
Fully.
published author,
Yeah,
going on a book tour.
I know. Whose life is this? Apparently, it's mine. Yeah.
What do your grandkids and children think?
Well, my kids are thrilled, and my grandkids are too little. But you know, I mean, my whole family, my friends, the people at Hamlin. You know, there are just so many people along the way. I know. I mean, and I look at here's Teacher Appreciation Week. You know, all these people who are in our lives that support us and help us. I mean, they're all teachers. You know, you're one of my teachers, and you know, we can't get there by ourselves. Yeah. We have to rely on other people. I also realize how much I talk with my hands.
Yes, and you're now giving back and sharing and teaching others.
Yeah.
How do you, if you're feeling stuck, or maybe you're not stuck, but you have a dream, or maybe you don't have a dream, but you want to figure out your dream, to pause, to think, ask yourself the questions. What do I want? What's the worst can happen? And what's next?
Right. Yep.
And then act on it.
And then act on it.
Build your support system.
Yes. Have wine in the refrigerator.
And wine. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with the people who are wanting to learn how to live a life they love?
Yeah, I guess I would just say take a chance, step out, find good support, let yourself be in those moments, and then it's like get to work, get to know what's inside that's missing, that you're looking for, and get to work and invest in yourself. That's what I would say.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Said from the teacher.
From the teacher.
I love it.
And there's no test.
And there's no yeah, and I want to underscore what you said earlier, that investing in education, sometimes it's education to get a skill or knowledge, and sometimes it's education to understand yourself better.
That's right.
Yeah,
I agree with that. Yep.
That's wonderful. And do we want to say hello to your sister?
Oh yeah, I have to say hi to Chris out in Seattle.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
We
Chris.
know you're there.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
We will be
Thank you.
excited to watch your journey. We'll post in the comments section, if we can, a link to when your event is in Madison.
Absolutely.
And where people can pre-order the book.
Yes, and you can go to my website, www.patriciasutton.com, and all the information is there. We'll put it on your website.
Yeah, we'll put it up because what now we can do is support Patricia for stepping out, for taking a risk, for creating a life she loves, for helping the rest of us be inspired.
Oh,
I'm inspired.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. This
Yeah.
was really fun.
Thank you. We're excited to hear and see more as your journey goes forth.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, you're such a sweetheart. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. We'll see you next week for Thoughtfully Fit Thursdays. If you have any questions or comments for Patricia, jot them down in the comments, and we'd love to give her more space to answer those questions and to share more about her journey. Everybody, take care. Have a good weekend.